One of the world's most innovative cars was created over 50 years ago by aviation engineers to serve the growing demand for automobiles in Sweden. Saab has always been different, a company that's carved out its own path from day one. It's a journey that's converted many skeptics into believers and that continues to create memorable automobiles. Today, Saab is one of the world's most recognized brands. Its sporty, stylish and luxurious cars have become modern classics. Saab's created a distinctive lineup of convertibles, coupes, sedans, wagons and an SUV. All evidence a certain Scandinavian lack of ostentation, but they're lively cars that look at home wherever they're driven. The story of Saab begins as the world prepares for war. A European war seemed inevitable in the mid-1930s. Adolf Hitler was actively rearming Germany. Benito Mussolini had militarized Italy. It was time to prepare for the worst. Though Sweden worked to enforce a policy of political neutrality during World War II, Prime Minister Per Albin Hansson made sure the country was prepared to defend its borders. However, this was a precarious balancing act between the German Reich, which had surrounded the country, and the Allies. Hansson knew Sweden had to build its own weapons to give it the strength to back its neutrality. Volvo was called upon to manufacture tanks and trucks. Then the Swedish government created Svenska Aeroplane Aktiebolaget, AB, or Saab, in May 1937 to build military aircraft. Its first planes were based on the German Junkers. Saab built these planes under license while it developed original designs. The Saab 17 was the first plane to be designed and built by Saab. It took its maiden flight in May of 1940. Versatile, it was configured as a dive bomber, and reconnaissance aircraft. It remained in use into the 1950s. Saab engineers learned quickly, and by 1942, they were ready to unveil an all-steel attack bomber, the Saab 18. An improved version, the B-18, was the world's fastest twin-engine bomber with a top speed of 354 miles per hour. Saab aviation kept improving. By 1945, they developed a lethal single-seat attack fighter armed with cannon and machine guns. This pusher propeller plane, with the engine in the back, proved to be the ideal airframe to use for Saab's first jet. The 21A became the 21B jet fighter in 1947. Saab's aviation business was soaring, but its managers realized that after the war, it would have to diversify. One product made the most sense: automobiles. To study what kind of car Swedes would want after the war, Saab put together a team of about 15 of its aircraft engineers. Sixten Sasson, a technical illustrator, was charged with drawing the shape of the car, and Gunnar Lundström led the team. Work began in April of 1946 on the first running prototype, the Saab 92001. A car emerged that was different from anything else on the road. Sasson's aircraft-inspired styling was unmistakable. The futuristic first prototype was ready to roll in the summer of 1946. Its aerodynamic body had a very low coefficient of drag. The welded all-steel body was pressed as one unit, from the front windshield to the rear bumper. The sleek, unusual car was also front-wheel drive and had a two-stroke engine. This feature, which required oil to be mixed with gasoline, would eventually be a drag on growth. For now, however, the country eagerly waited for the first Saab to roll off the line. After busting a hole in the factory roof so they could install the tall body stamping press, production of the Saab 92 began in December of 1949. People flocked to see the new cars when they hit the showrooms. The company estimated that it could sell 15,000 to 35,000 cars, but it could only build about 1,200 that first year. Since the company had secured a good deal on some surplus moss green paint from the military, all of the first cars were green. Saab began selling cars in Sweden and exporting to neighboring Scandinavian countries. This brought in foreign currency needed to buy imported materials and equipment. Its two-stroke engine was lighter, simpler, and less expensive to manufacture. Two-stroke engines also have the potential to pack about twice the power into the same space, because there are twice as many power strokes per revolution of the pistons. The combination of lightweight and twice the power gives two-stroke engines a great power-to-weight ratio compared to many four-stroke engine designs. This gave Saab engineers an idea about how to build the car's reputation. Success on the rally circuit would get attention and spur sales. Just a few weeks after production began, 2 cars entered the Monte Carlo rally. They finished, but didn't win. But they kept at it. By the end of the year, the team won the toughest rally in Sweden. Saab was on the map. By 1955, Sassen had prepared an updated version of his winning car, the 93. He'd restyled the front end, and the engineers had beefed up the 3-cylinder engine. Stock, it delivered 38 brake horsepower, but rally versions tuned it to deliver 65. Drivers like Erik Karlsson began to campaign the cars. After winning the Finnish rally, he said, "You can't drive a car harder than this." Not everyone wanted to race, but people were attracted to Saabs because they were sporty and fun. It was an affordable car that opened up new worlds to growing Swedish families. They loved the spunky two-stroke engine that could turn a weekend in the country into a rally. In 1956, Saab created a sensation at the Stockholm Motor Show with the unveiling of their first sports car, the Saab Sonnet Super. It was an open-topped, 2-seat competition sports car. Its glass fiber body sat on a light alloy frame that had been developed and produced to meet new competition rules. Power came from a 3-cylinder, 2-stroke engine tuned to produce 57 brake horsepower at 5,000 revs per minute. It was planned to go into production, but only 6 cars were ever made. More practical cars received the production go-ahead. Saab's first station wagon, the 9.5, was introduced in 1959. Sixten Sason crafted a sleek vehicle with a surprising amount of interior room. It featured a fold-down, rearward-facing third seat that turned it into a 7-seater. More new models were in the pipeline. In 1960, Saab revealed the 9.6. It was a little larger and rounder. The 9.6 had flow-through ventilation and a more powerful engine. The 9.6 was the company's most successful model and was built throughout the 1960s. Production grew from 30,000 to 50,000. Ljungström pushed his engineers to find a replacement for the 4-stroke engine. The 2-stroke had serious limitations. They went to work designing, testing, and building a new power unit. Customers were impressed with the overall engineering and build quality of the cars. They were rugged and sturdy cars that were built to last. But experience showed that the two-stroke didn't last as long as four-stroke engines. It became clear that the lack of a dedicated lubrication system meant that the parts of the two-stroke wore a lot faster. The oil made the engines smoky. Once they were worn, they'd belch huge clouds of oily smoke. Unburned oil also dripped out of the tailpipe. Ljungström knew the disadvantages with the two-stroke engines couldn't be overcome. The company continued to capitalize on the two-stroke engine's one strength, its power-to-weight ratio. While the engineers worked on a replacement, it kept entering cars in rallies. It was a period of outstanding success for Saab in rallying. It brought international renown to the company and turned driver Erik Karlsson into a company hero. His first ever 3 straight overall wins in the British Royal Automobile Club Rally in 1960, 61 and 62 were capped by back-to-back wins at Monte Carlo in 1962 and 63. He was a formidable competitor who kept Saab in the headlines. Karlsson's racing exploits looked so easy and received so much attention in Sweden that it was difficult for Ljungström to convince the board to give the go-ahead to produce the four-stroke engine he was developing. Finally, after much persuasion, the board agreed. The two-stroke engine was on the way out. In 1966, an elated Ljungström introduced a revised Saab 9.5 and 9.6 with a V4-cylinder four-stroke engine from Ford. The new power plant was an immediate success. But the two-stroke wasn't dead just yet. That same year, when the Sonnet was reborn, it came with Saab's Monte Carlo, a 3-cylinder, two-stroke engine. It was hoped that this two-seat sports car would appeal to American buyers. But in a market where European rally success had little impact, the two-stroke engine had to go. In 1968, the V4 was added, and sales started to pick up. That same year, tragedy struck at Saab. Sixten Sasson died just as a new era was beginning for the company. The two-stroke was history, and Saab was about to launch its most successful model to date. Sweden and the rest of Western Europe was becoming increasingly prosperous. It was time to build a car for the changing times. Saab was ready to serve this more affluent market with the 99. This was a completely new car. The 9.5 and 9.6 were still being made, but the 99 was the wave of the future. Though it was a totally different car, it was unmistakably a Saab. Styling wasn't the only change. The new car came loaded with innovations. It had a larger engine, the company's first automatic transmission, headlamp washers, and deeply padded seats with built-in headrests to reduce whiplash injuries. The 99s initially came with an engine designed by Triumph of Britain. This was eventually replaced by a Swedish four-cylinder engine. As planned, this car took Saab to another level. It was continually improved. To show off its more powerful car, Saabs were once again entering into rally competition. They tried something new, turbocharging. In 1979, Stig Blomqvist won the Swedish rally in a turbocharged Saab 99. The first time that a turbocharged car had won a World Championship rally. Saab's Turbo had become a cult favorite. Launched at the 1977 Frankfurt Auto Show, it received enormous media attention. Saab wasn't the only company to introduce new technology into the rally circuit. It was soon outstripped by wealthier opponents and withdrew from racing. It concentrated efforts on improving design and manufacturing processes. It installed new computer systems and factories full of robots. The result of this investment was the Saab 900. It was an instant classic. It would be built from 1979 to 1993. It was enormously popular. Hundreds of thousands were sold around the world. The 900's popularity stemmed from its feature-laden offerings. It came with independent suspension, coil springs, and four-wheel disc brakes. It had self-repairing bumpers, heated seats, headlight cleaners, an anti-lock braking system, a revolutionary ventilation air filter that was loved by people with allergies, and of course, an optional turbo engine. The cabriolet was an instant hit when it was introduced in 1986. More than 27,000 were sold in the first year. All in all, the 900 delivered. It was built to appeal to the near-luxury buyer, but Saab was aiming higher. It searched for a new look that would capture a buyer more interested in style. The Saab EV1 experimental prototype, developed in 1985, was a testbed for an advanced sports coupe. The car was built with new materials like carbon fiber reinforced plastics that Saab engineers wanted to try. The interior ventilation system used solar cells in the roof to keep the car cool when it was parked in sunlight. Its 285 brake horsepower 16-valve turbocharged engine gave it impressive performance. But this was just a concept. Saab needed real-world cars. It hired the legendary Italian firm of Giorgetto Giugiaro to design its first entry into the larger car market, the 9000. With the 9000, Saab engineers attempted to deliver a high standard of performance, handling, comfort, safety, and style. Its third-generation turbocharged engine gave it a top speed of 135 miles per hour and 0 to 60 in 7.8 seconds. This was a large car that moved. In 1988, Saab produced its first four-door car, the 9000 CD. This was a car designed for growing families and the executive class. These innovative new products were increasingly expensive to design, build, and market. The late 1980s launched an era of consolidations. Saab management realized the company needed help to survive. It wasn't alone. Ford had beaten out GM to buy Saab's Swedish counterpart, Volvo. GM turned its attention to Saab. The giant American corporation wanted to add a European luxury car maker to its lineup. Saab accepted its offer, and the two companies announced a joint venture in March of 1990. Saab hoped that General Motors would give it the financial, engineering, purchasing, and marketing resources necessary for growth. But some feared GM would crush Saab's uniqueness. In 1994, the automotive world anxiously awaited the first joint effort, the revamped 900. This was the first time an existing Saab model was replaced with a completely new version in the same market segment. The evolutionary design received a positive reaction from the public, who still remembered the thrill of driving the original 900, and also from those who missed it. In 1994, a revamped 900 Cabriolet was shown at the Detroit Auto Show. Like the rest of the 900 range, it was offered with a new 2-liter turbo engine. The 900 also boasted the first V6 engine ever available in a Saab. Saab's designers have been working on ideas for a new, larger model since the early 1990s. Unfortunately, this project had been repeatedly delayed and eventually scrapped. It was resurrected in February 1993. 7 designers were assembled to begin fresh on Project 640. Each would produce a scale model from which the new car would be chosen. In less than 3 years, the car went from drawing to manufacturing. Saabisms reintroduced for the 9.5 include the clamshell bonnet and the return of the floor-mounted ignition and reverse gear lock that was absent from its predecessor, the Saab 9000. The new 9.5 retained existing Saab design cues and features such as its attention to safety, the curved C-pillar, and the overall ergonomics of the vehicle, especially in respect to the driver. Saab set out to exceed its already high safety standards and make it its safest car yet. In 1998, the introduction of the 9.5 sedan was followed by the first Saab wagon in over 30 years. The GM investment was helping Saab expand its lineup. While new products were rolling out, Saab's performance wasn't quite what GM had wanted. In 2000, GM moved to purchase control of the whole company. The following year, Saab's first concept car since 1985 was shown to the world at the Frankfurt Motor Show. It combined aspects of roadsters, wagons and pickups all in one car. While its vision of the future was attention-getting, the company's real-world performance will be judged by actual drivable products. It wasn't a long wait. In 2003, Saab announced a car that was aimed at BMW, Mercedes and Audi, the 9.3 Sport Sedan. It promised a premium car that was sporty and fun to drive, that would appeal to a younger buyer, typically 35 to 45 years old. The sedan was seen as a core product that could serve as the platform for other variations. It was designed to convey a sense of movement even when it was standing still. It was proof that GM wasn't standing still. This car was created with the biggest investment program in new models in Saab's history. General Motors spent over $450 million in new facilities and machinery that transformed the old Saab plant into what was essentially a new factory. This large investment began to pay off when the new 9.3 became Saab's best-selling model. Buyers said they liked its sporty styling and fun-to-drive performance and handling. Of course, some liked the 300-watt AM/FM CD infotainment center with its 13 speakers. It came with Bluetooth-capable phones with voice recognition, text messaging, and GPS navigation. But there was something missing, a cabriolet. Saab filled the gap in the range when it brought out its open-top 9.3, available in steel grey or a vivid lime yellow. This was a car in touch with its past, clearly a descendant of the 900 Turbo unveiled at the 1983 Frankfurt Motor Show. Saab is a company that nurtures its heritage. It has a history of providing driving excitement with unique vehicles created with timeless Scandinavian design, whether driven in competition or for weekend escapes. Saab's aviation genetic code has created cars that look like they want to soar.